Nu ska vi se det andra programmet av 3 som tar oss till Australien, drömmarnas kontinent. I kvällens program så ska vi bland annat få se den himlajord som farmare Lövgren kom till vid Crimson Creek och som sen Evert Taube besjöng efter att ha besökt Mr. Lofgren.
Australien, drömmarnas kontinent. Drömmar om hav och oändlighet. Drömmar om frihet och stor rikedom. Jag är här för att se hur mina drömmar stämmer med verkligheten. Finns det fortfarande kraftkarar som klipper får och hugger sockerrör? Finns det engelskättlingar med högre ståndsambitioner? Och vad lever folk av egentligen? Colin McCullough skriver i sin bok Törnfåglarna: för Luke innehöll sockerrörshuggandet en skönhet och en plåga som han hade väntat på hela livet. Och böja sig och resa sig och böja sig i en rituell rytm var att få delta i ett mysterium som förunnas få män. Han kunde knappt rymma sin stolthet över att tillhöra en av de mest högtstående grupperna av arbetare i världen, och att praktiskt taget ingen som han mötte skulle klara en enda dag på sockerrörsfälten. Kungen av England var inte bättre än han, och kungen skulle beundra honom om han hade känt till honom. Luke kunde se ner på doktorer och advokater och klara av att hugga socker på det sättet som den profithungrige vite mannen begärde. Det var den största av bedrifter. En man som klarade detta var verkligen en man. Men det var då det, eller också var det bara så i författarinnans fantasi. Men visst är jag besviken över att dessa monster med sina stora stålkäftar har tagit över. Visserligen produceras det mera socker än någonsin, men det har inte längre samma betydelse i landets ekonomi jämförelsevis. Nu får en annan näring allt större betydelse. Varje år kommer drygt 2 miljoner besökare och turismen står för 5% av BNP. Japanerna är den största gruppen och ska hinna med allt på högst 14 dagar. Ett besök på Stora barriärrevet är då ett måste.
But if any of you want to learn a lot more about our reef, how about I make you an offer? How would you like to come out here and stay in our pontoon for a while? Got any questions, folks, while I'm at me? That's what I'm here for. If I know the answer, I'll tell you. If I don't know the answer, I can make something up and you won't know the difference anyway. Yes, we get sharks out here from time to time. The ones we get out here are called black chip sharks or white chip.
Och visst vill turisterna gärna få se den stora vita hajen på revet. Men det mesta japanerna hinner få se är japanskägda skyskrapshotell med japansk personal och till och med japansktillverkade leksakskoaler i souvenirbutiken. Och de flesta australiensiska guiderna talar japanska.
Den jorden som du trampar hos mig på Crimson Creek.
Och vad har nu Taube med Australien att göra? Jo, under sitt trampande runt de 7 haven kom han faktiskt hit till Queensland 1928. Här hälsade han på farmar Lövgren på Camerons Creek, som i Taubes diktning för sjungbarhetens skull kallas Crimson Creek, några mil in i landet från Brisbane. En utvandrad svensk som vet mer om det här är invandrarforskaren Stig Håkansson.
Just här stod ett par gamla pinnstolar och enligt sonsonen var det här Evert Taube satt med farmar Lövgren och drack portvin och snusade och hade sig och tittade ut över bäcken här nere. Det här rummet var vanligtvis äldsta dottern Klaras rum och här bodde hon, men hon fick flytta på sig tillfället så att Evert Taube kunde få rum här inne och bo när de hade haft trevligt under kvällarnas lopp. Men i alla fall den här verandan då är ju väldigt minnesrik, för det var väl här inspirationen kom efter många goda glas vin på kvällarna. Och han hade sin gitarr med sig enligt Harald och spelade och underhöll familjen Lövgren här i det här hemmet. Huset vi står framför just nu är det som Lövgren-familjen bodde i fram till Lövgrens död i 1932. Och en del av uthusen finns kvar än idag, till exempel bryggerier. Det är inte så mycket att hurra för nu, men man kan se att träskiffret finns kvar på det här bryggeriet som gamla Lövgren la på som tak. Och där hade han också sina honungsattiraljer, för han var biodlare också. Han var väldigt duktig och omtänksam så att barnen skulle få den bästa maten möjliga. Så Lövgren var det ordentligt gjort. Och här kan vi då se till exempel lite mera rejäl byggnadskonster. Ett svenskt utedass som kanske kunde ha suttit någonstans i Småland eller var som helst istället för ett Australien som alltid var väsentligt slarvigare, mera hål i jorden.
Till denna himla jorden kom jag som timmerman. I Falkenberg jag föddes, John Lövgren var mitt namn. Nu kallar jag mig Löfgren och odlar apelsin. 300 kor jag äger nu, 6 hästar, 8 svin.
Här var det stora fält. Hans farm storlek berodde väldigt mycket på konjunkturerna. Så när den var som störst hade han över 1000 hektar. Men när det drog åt sig lite med dåliga tider då sålde han lite. Så den växte och krympte fram och tillbaka. Ja, tyvärr har ju torkan satt sina spår just här. Det är inte mycket att hurra för i den lilla bäcken just nu. Den kan vara bara ett par decimeter djup. Men vanligtvis var den ju mycket djupare, till och med 1,5 meter djup. Och gamle Lövgren själv, han hade lagt upp några stockar alldeles bakom oss här. Och det gjorde att det blev en slags damm. Och själv satt han på bergsknallen just till vänster här. Och brukade röka sin pipa och titta på barnen när de lekte. Som en uppmuntran för allt arbete och slit på farmen för barnbarnen, speciellt för sockerdricka. Och då var de finurliga när det var 35-40 grader varmt här och ville svalka av. Så kom de ner med sin sockerdricka någon timme innan och la i flaskan i den här bäcken som normalt sett var alltid 5-6 grader kallare. Det fanns inga kylskåp på den tiden. Men bäcken är fortfarande kristallklar. Det är nästan går att dricka vatten.
Jag kommer hela världen, sa Lövgren från en lus. Så är det dock en himla jord du ser ifrån mitt hus. Det låg en vacker tanke i Lövgrens romantik. En tro på nåd från ovan som gjorde honom rik. Han slet där i sin djungel med halländsk energi och odlade den himla jord som han nu sover i. Hans rikdom var dock ringa, det har man insett nu. Hans egendom tog banken, en kviga fick hans fru. Men apelsiner lysa i Lövgrens spår som guld. I urskogen i Queensland och kvittar är hans skuld.
John Lövgren måste ha varit en hejare till karl. 2 meter lång, alltid snyggt klädd och med en stor vit papegoja på axeln.
Jag tänker på John Lövgren och på hans drömmars land. Det faller på Ljungsröd.
min son och jag satt och läste kartan inför resan hittade han Murra, som var angivet som ett vattenhål. Han satte som villkor för mig att om jag skulle få åka till Australien måste jag ta reda på vad Murra är. Jag skrev brev till närmaste postkontor och fick reda på att på Murra bor familjen Goodwin. Jag har talat med Chris Goodwin per telefon och han bjöd mig hit för att visa mig vad Murra är.
Murra is a sheep and cattle place. We mainly run sheep at the moment. We're 140 kilometres east of Cunnamulla and 85 kilometres west of Boland. We have about 87,000 hectares, which is 336 square kilometres of country. We normally shear 32,000, between 30 to 32,000 sheep. At the moment we're experiencing one of the worst droughts we've had for, certainly since we've been out here, which is 15 years, and many of the old timers say it's the worst drought they've seen at, in their lifetimes, which is a long time. So we're back down to about 18,000 sheep. We've tried to keep our breeding nucleus alive by scrub pulling, which is mulga. We've got big stands of mulga scrub, which are a member of the acacia family, which the wattle, as most people know, is one of our Australian symbols. We supplement the mulga with blocks, which the blocks we use have 8% urea. Also within those blocks there are several minerals and salt. We're also using cottonseed, which is at St George there's a lot of dry land and irrigated cotton growing, and the cottonseed's one of the byproducts of removing the fibre from the pod. The cottonseed has a crude protein of around about 21%, and the sheep take to it very readily. We feed the cottonseed to the dry sheep about once a week, and we've been feeding the rams ad lib on cottonseed, and it seems to be maintaining them in a reasonable order anyway. Well, it'll be certainly very different to your lifestyle. I don't like to use the words layback because it implies lazy, but we are a little bit layback in our lifestyle out here. We're our own bosses for a start, which means that we can work when we want to work and not work when we don't want to work. But at the moment, unfortunately, we haven't got the choice. We just get up early and you work and you get home late and you don't stop until it's finished. But I think the great beauty of our lifestyle is that we are our own bosses. We live in an area where absolutely clean air, clear skies. Whatever we do gives us benefit, both from achieving something for ourselves and seeing something grow that we've been working at.
You have beautiful dogs. You must tell me a bit about the dogs.
Yes, well, we've got red kelpies. They're, I guess, an Australian breed of sheepdog. We've tried to maintain and buy and breed the pure kelpie. They're a very faithful dog. They identify usually with one person, but they're great mates. They're very loyal. They're untiring workers. They just work until they drop. It's sort of, I suppose it's my responsibility when you're out in the paddock to make sure you don't overheat your dog, and any water hole or bogey hole, as we call them, that you come to, be they as like a little cesspool or not, you've got to let them off and have a swim to cool down. You've got to look after them. But no, they certainly do the work of several men. Very faithful. They don't talk back to you, and they're fairly easy to care for. We usually keep them on room meat when we can. As you've seen, there's an abundance of kangaroos on Murra, and actually we've got a plague proportion of kangaroos through the southwest at the moment. And if we get a bit lazy and don't get a roo, they'll get working dog nuts, which is just a formula of dog nuts which keep them going, puts a bit of shine on their coat.
Living out here, because it's so isolated, you have to have an interest, be it your house or your garden or socialising or whatever. And because horses have always been a part of my life, it's sort of my interest. And it keeps me very busy and occupied and happy. And as I say, I think every woman, unless they're actually working on the property, needs some sort of an interest. Otherwise you just go potty out here. It's very lonely, etc. So I have my horses and the children ride, which is always been a good interest for them too, because when they were on correspondence, they don't have much out here. It's not as if we can sort of suddenly nip out to the pictures or go to a restaurant or something like that. So they need an interest as well. And so these yards are over 100 years old. They were the original horse breaking yards here at Maramo. And the horses, of course, were used all the time for stock work. They didn't have motorbikes or anything like that. Unfortunately, that's sort of gone now, but as a recreational pursuit, they've certainly remained. So that's been very good. I've always loved animals. I mean, that's just me. I've always loved them. But I think, once again, they're an interest. They're company for me. You know, it takes me quite a long time in the morning to get around and do all the chores. I go around and talk to all the animals, and they're just about all day, and you chat to them and talk to them, and just, as I say, a tremendous interest and a company to have around the place. Well, she's only a puppy. She's a Rhodesian Ridgeback. You can see through all the mud, the ridge down her back. But she's not quite 5 months old yet, so she's really only a puppy. So she will grow, more. They grow to about 26 inches at the shoulder. So, but we just sort of felt that I go away travelling with the horse quite a bit, and I stay in my float. And just for safety's sake, I thought it was a good idea to have a dog that I could sort of tie up outside. I don't want her to be vicious at all, but she's got a colossal bark, and she growls and barks, and just enough to put people off coming around that you don't really want around. I mean, I'm on my own here most of the day, and the men go out scrub pulling or doing whatever they're doing. They leave early in the morning, then they come home till late at night. And because we're sort of on the main road, we often get cars and things dropping in. And being a big house and a big place, I often don't hear people pull up the gate. And if there's nobody around, quite often people will just sort of walk in through the gate, and that really sort of bothers me. I hate to think people just walking into your home. Yeah, we've got a lot of other dogs too, working dogs, but they're usually out working. So it's just a companion for me. It's terrific.
Well, we better go or we'll be late for dinner.
Oh, here's
Den middagen var verkligen god, och på kvällen hände det fantastiska. Det började åska och regna. Lyckan var stor när vattenhålet hade blivit en rinnande creek igen och öknen kunde börja blomma. Jag blev nästan betraktad som en magisk regnmakerska, och magi kan behövas på den här kontinenten där torkan kan vara så svår och översvämningarna så dramatiska. Det är sällan lagom i Australien. Vatten är en livsnödvändighet, och stora delar av landet har inte tillgång till rinnande sött vatten året om. Fördämningar hjälper för att ta tillvara nederbörden. I övrigt finns bara underjordiska vattendrag som man måste försöka hitta och borra sig ner till. Numera studerar man mest satellitbilder, men modifikationer av gamla beprövade metoder ger också resultat. Herr Biggs visar mig hur det går till.
Top streams running that way. Where with the fork stick, this is more accurate than the fork stick. With a fork stick, take a while to go down, and people with the fork stick nearly always use wire after to divine it more accurately. Yeah. Do you want to try and see if it works for you?
Oh, yeah.
Någon riktig regnmakerska är jag nog inte, men under de senaste dygnen har naturen skött sig. Här styrs värdet på marken av tillgången på vatten.
First place he bought was his howling drought when he went out there and he bought the place off an old bloke that his son was away in Brisbane somewhere and didn't have any intention of coming back. And he bought the place and he said, well, I'll take it, but I won't pay you until I get 3 inches of rain. It's no good for me the way it is. It's just as bare as that, you know, all over. And the bloke said, well, that'll do me. I think it's only the whole place was 60,000 acres. It was only about $30,000.
Probably didn't rain for another year.
No, it didn't. It didn't rain for 8 to 9 months. And then they got pretty good rain.
Well, I'm Michael Davidson, and we're on a sheep station, as we call it, or sheep farm, which indeed is a mixed farm with all crops and cattle and other things too. But our main business is sheep farming, and we are in the young Cootamundra district of New South Wales in Australia, 400 kilometres inland from the city of Sydney, on an area that is called the Southwest Slopes, but running into flat country. My family acquired this main property in 1875, at very early stages of development. So they were involved in developing all the property and building up sheep flocks in this area. But much of the land has changed hands and been split up into smaller farms, but I have been able to put together quite a big farm here now, which is 15,000 acres, or that is 6,000 hectares, which is quite big for this area of the country. It was not big by the standards of the Northern Territory or Queensland or western parts, where there are much bigger farms. But of course, we run a lot more sheep for every hectare than they do out in that country. I should have made it clear. Did I say 3 sheep per acre? Yes, which is 7.5 sheep per hectare if you can have half a sheep. And we have merino sheep for merino wool production, and we have prime lambs for eating. But the main business is merino sheep. The great Australian wool industry supplies the world with wool.
How many sheep are there in Australia?
Total sheep in Australia are about 175 million. On this property, with our lambs, we have about 24,000 sheep. So it's a huge industry in Australia, and Australia supplies 70% of the world's apparel fibre wool that is used for clothing of all types, from men's suits through to beautiful women's dresses, or for blankets or for other purposes. So wool is something that comes in many qualities. We always try to produce the best quality as we can. The price has gone down the last 3 years because we had oversupply and some problem in the world economy. So we are not in a very good situation at the moment, but we're very confident that things will get better again in the next 2 or 3 years, and prices will recover, so that we'll become a profitable industry. So we are keeping our sheep flocks together, and looking after them properly and producing wool, and we hope the price will come up.
De här fåren har blivit allvarligt angripna av spyflugor, och sådana angrepp måste behandlas. Jordarna inspekteras kontinuerligt för att man så tidigt som möjligt ska upptäcka flugorna. Michael urskiljer snabbt och med kännablick de djur som behöver bli klippta i rumpan och få lite bekämpningsmedel i fällen. Jag tror inte att han gör det här bara av ekonomiska skäl. Han ser ut som om han verkligen bryr sig om sina djur. När en hel flock angripits måste man fösa ihop dem. Väl inne i hagen klipper man rent rumpan på de värst angripna djuren. Sen skickas alla genom en dusch med insektsmedel. Michael Davidsons son David har tagit över det mesta av den dagliga driften av Jarran. Michael och David är inte så lite stolta över att gården varit i familjens ägo i 120 år. Med svenska ögon inte en så lång tid, men här. Den som jobbar med fårskötseln har sina arbetshundar med sig. Den här dagen tycker Michael att det har blivit för många hundar i hagen, så han har sina egna i koppel och låter dem vila i skuggan under bilflaket.
Well, as you have seen, we were mustering the sheep first thing in the morning. We always muster early in the day because it's cool. After about mid-morning in the summer months, we can't muster sheep any distance because they just overheat and don't like to travel. So we aim to muster very early in the mornings, and sometimes we start at first light, which may be 5 o'clock. So yesterday we had the sheep in the yards, and we were treating them with a chemical to prevent the blowflies. Some of the damage the blowflies can do in a very good season, rainy season. They can make the sheep very sick, and the sheep naturally can die from that. We also lose a lot of the wool. The wool that's damaged by the blowflies infestation causes economic loss to us. We shear the sheep once a year, and the whole industry is geared up to shearing, to processing the wool, which is grown in 1 year, which is about 10 centimetres long. And that's what we're doing here tomorrow. We're shearing some of our sheep tomorrow. Well, they're wethers, which are desexed males. They're the primary wool growers. The ewes are used for breeding, but they also grow wool, of course. But the wethers are the desexed males, and they're the principal wool producers in the merino sheep. We have 5 shearers. The shed has 5 stands, but sheds have anything from 1 stand up to 20 or more stands. 5 is about an average number. Different shearers shear at different speeds, of course. The learners are very slow and do between 50 or 60 or 80 a day, but the very good shearers can shear up to 200 sheep a day. They're earning about $1.47 per sheep, and that amounts to a good number of dollars for a whole day's work. But my word, it's a hard day's work, and they certainly earn it. Yes, I appreciate all the work the shearers do, that's for sure.
Well, I started when I was 16. I worked 8 hours, which is 4 2-hour runs. Started up past 7 and finished up past 5. Usually only 5 days a week. Saturday and Sundays off. If you get better going ones, you can do to around 200. These ones about 100 and, I don't know, 140. You know, if they, what we call comb easy, well then they're easier to shear. The sheep don't kick so much, and it's all much, everything's easier. Easier on them and easier on us.
The younger fellas now don't tend to get into it, I don't think. Women are taking over. It's our time, yeah, because for ages they weren't allowed in the shearing shed, so, yeah.
Have you ever tried to shear yourself?
Yeah, I've had a couple of goes, but I find the positioning a little bit uncomfortable.
You can make better than average wages, but you have to work a lot of time, and it's difficult sometimes to get continuous work. If you're not getting continuous work, then it doesn't pay very well, because we get paid per sheep. So the more you do in a year, the more you get paid per year.
But it's good work.
Oh yes, when you're fit to it, and yeah, if you like it. Yeah.
The employers are all right?
Yeah, generally, yeah. Yeah. Generally, as long as you're working, you know, you don't get any hassles.
Other things that have happened in this area over time, the development of agricultural crops, which is now very well developed in this particular area. Because it has sufficient rainfall, we now grow a lot of cereal crops, wheat and barley and rye, corn and other grain crops for animal feeds. We grow oil seeds like canola. We grow lupins for animal production. We grow peas for the field peas for the pea market, particularly the Indian market. So we have a variety of things that we do. So a farm business like this is a very complex business, very expensive business to run, requires a lot of expertise in many fields, from business itself right through to how to handle animals, how to look after machinery, how to develop all the crops, how to study the genetics of animal production, and look after the animal health. And as well as all that, we have to look after the land, which is the basis of our living, and we're very careful about improving our land these days and making sure that we leave our farmers to the next generation in a better condition than when we took them over. So there is a mixture right throughout the land of bigger, substantial holdings, big business enterprises, and a lot of very active smaller farmers who, unfortunately, these days are finding it very difficult in the current economic climate to make a good living. And many of them have now been selling their farms. So, in fact, there are less farmers every year in Australia, and that's happening in Europe and America and other countries as well.
Det här är Waterloo Pub. Om man har tur kan man en vanlig lördag eller söndags eftermiddag få höra det här gänget, The Oldtimers, med en medelålder på cirka 75, som spelar här utan att ta betalt. Men en eller annan australisk dollar hamnar väl i hatten.